everyone, this is David Stark from WatcherPass.com, your website for movie reviews, interviews, and recommendations. Today we're hopefully something a good interview because I'm talking to Julian Richings about Anything for Jackson. It was available on Shudder earlier and releases on VOD, digital, Blu Ray, and DVD on June 15th, 2021. We're going to talk to him in just a second, but first let's check out the trailer. And while you're watching, if you can like and subscribe to this channel, that would be fantastic. It helps me out a lot. Thank you. So thank you so much for joining me. This is Julian Richings, who stars in two movies that are coming out very soon. Spare Parts, which is releasing on June 1st, 2021, and Anything for Jackson, which is releasing on June 15th, 2021. Now, speaking of terrible things, let's move to Anything for Jackson, which
is not a terrible film. It's just a terrible film.
No, it was one of my favorite horror films of last year. I loved it. I kind of, I love how it sets the tone at the start. Like I went in and I watched the trailer, so I went in and I heard, saw this couple in their house and they're having mundane conversation. Oh, she's arrived, and then you're like, oh, this is going to be a very different film.
It is, yeah.
So what was it like? I guess what appealed to you about that film? I mean, again, you get to play kind of a villain, but kind of a very different villain.
Yeah, very different kind of film. The script is very different too. So it's not dealing with archetypes so much as it's just like a smaller chamber piece in a way, and it's beautifully written for characters that surprise you and have a revolving dynamic that shifts during the film. So it's a fun challenge for an actor. It's also fun for an older actor like myself to work with somebody of similar status and experience, like Sheila. Sheila and I got on really well. We have similar backgrounds and training, and so we took to each other very quickly, and we really relished the whole idea of not just being characters responsible for our own journey, but we were kind of responsible for each other in the storytelling. It's like we were joined at the hip, and so every choice we made as an actor, we had to check in with our partner to make sure that that was the right one. And there was always that sense in the movie where, like, Henry, my character, does a lot of things to please his wife Audrey and to make sure she's happy, and that makes it very interesting. We're not just like two people that operate on exactly the same wavelength. We check in, and there's a sense that my character is enabling my wife, who is even more grief-stricken than I am, and so we're propelled by this very human, very frail emotion that I think the audience sympathizes with, but the things that we do or we encourage each other to do in order to compensate for that are just appalling. And so it's only when you start to get the other character coming in, Konstantina, who plays Shannon, the woman that we abduct, that she comes in, and at first she's just she is a victim, but she has so much more in the equation. She becomes a woman with agency. She has a plan. She starts to realize that these people are vulnerable and she can manipulate them. And there's a sort of it's a great chamber piece between all of us.
Yeah, and I think I like how you describe the characters, very complicated, because that's what I found when I was watching. It's like you sympathize with them and you kind of root for them, even though their plan is a terrible one. You still kind of root for them because of their grief and because of kind of how genuine these characters feel. And so that was such a very delicate balance that you both hit in this film.
Yeah, and we care about each other, and I think anybody watching sort of empathizes with a couple that care about each other. They clearly, oh, they must be nice. Well, maybe they're not too nice either. or their actions, maybe their intentions are good, but their actions are appalling. And I think that's an interesting thing about this film, particularly, is that it sort of, there's a social criticism in there too, about a generational thing about people in positions of responsibility behaving badly. Like the doctor has signed the Hippocratic Oath, and yet he's doing things that are complete opposite of what he should be doing.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like, his grief is more important than someone else's love, and that's that is a difficult balance, and this film kind of hits it perfectly. One thing I was wondering is, so in this film you playing a Satanist, and was there any, like, did you after, did you like go to church? Did you cross your, did you do the cross a couple times? Like, was there any
No.
trepidation about that? I mean, I know you're just an actor and they're all different roles, but
Yeah.
this one was, you know, I loved your character, kind of like this person who's coming into this world and doesn't really understand much about it, but trying to learn. Like, you know, was there
And
any issue with that, or was it just, you know, it's a
no, I had
role
no
and it's an
issue.
interesting project?
I thought, you know, it would be the same as walking into any sort of religion or faith or Masonic temple or political house. I think you have to understand the mechanics of what the belief is, and you have to be, you know, you have to have openness and not go in judging it, go, wow, this sucks, this is stupid, or whatever. We kind of made attempts to understand it and where it's coming from, but by the same token, I didn't feel threatened or challenged, or my own I'm a curious person and I'm an actor, so I'm used to sort of doing stuff or performing deeds that I wouldn't as a human being normally do. So I don't feel any kind of
that's good to hear, given the role that you've been playing recently.
Yeah. There's also an element of fun about them too. I think it's important in the balance of the story that it starts off like, I love the idea that the local satanic cult meets in the public library, you know, and without playing it for laughs, because we play it very seriously, but there's an element of fun in that. And there's an element of also of social critique in that the marginalized and the other sort of has to find somewhere to be, right? And in this case, it's in a public library, and the leader works at a fast food chain, and it's only one of the group that is actually dangerous and deviant. We're not actually suggesting that Satanists generally are the bad guys. There's no bad guy in this film. It's irresponsible actions, and one of them is irresponsible and dangerous, but that's for reasons that are not necessarily connected to the Satanism. He's a dangerous individual.
Yeah. And you know, as this film kind of shows, there's all these very complicated characters with very different, you know, motivations, and so
yeah,
I think that's a good point to bring up. So now I'd like to move, I call it the lightning round. They're just very short, lightweight questions that relate to the film. I want to see how your experiences relate to the things that happen to the characters. I'll start with anything for Jackson, and I'll move quickly to spare parts, and I know we have a few minutes, so I'll try to keep them very short.
All right.
First question is, what is the longest time you've had a guest in your house?
Oh my goodness. I think when I was doing a summer gig in a theater festival. So I was there for 3 months, and it was in a beautiful location. It was in Halifax, Nova Scotia. Well, it was Wolfville, Nova Scotia, not far away. And it was one of those gigs where I didn't get paid a lot, but I got a beautiful place. So everybody invited themselves. So throughout, you know, it was going to be the dream getaway for my wife and myself and our 2 little kids. And suddenly my parents arrived, and grandparents, and, you know, like friends suddenly turned up, and, oh, we hear you're here. So it felt like a never ending summer of guests. And it was great. Like and they were all close, but it was like, we made a mistake there. Like, next time I'll choose a gig that isn't quite so appealing to everybody else.
Yeah. Or just save the pictures for after the gig. We're like, look at this great place we were at, but we are no longer there.
Yeah.
Do you shovel your own driveway?
I do.
Okay.
Yes.
That's amazing.
Yes, I love it.
Good for you.
But I'm on a corner lot, so it's difficult. Well, it takes a lot of time.
Yeah. Good for you. Do you floss?
Yes, I do. Floss.
not that intensely, I hope, but just floss.
Yes.
Have you gone as a ghost for Halloween?
I've never gone as a ghost. No. And I grew up in England, where we celebrated Guy Fawkes Night on November 5th. We never celebrated Halloween. So it's a new thing for me. I think my kids went as Disney characters when they were younger, and like G.I. Joes and things. So no, never done a ghost.
Well, first time for everything. Just a sheet and some holes. You're perfect.
Yeah.
And what is the oldest book that you own?
Probably a family Bible that's been, you know, like grandmother's, with grandmother's name and the family tree in there, sort of thing. So it's probably 100 years, 150 years.
That is also a very ironic answer for anything for Jackson. So it's perfect.
It is.
And so these films both come out in June. Spare Parts comes out on VOD, digital, Blu-ray, and DVD on June 1st, 2021. And Anything for Jackson comes out on those same platforms on June 15th, 2021. You're going to be promoting them. I guess, what is next for you? Your resume is insanely prolific, so I'm sure there's plenty of things coming up. But what's next for you after these films?
In the fall, I was lucky. I was filming during COVID in the Maritimes bubble, which was in an area of Nova Scotia where we filmed an adaptation of Stephen King's Jerusalem's Lot. It's a short story, but it's been turned into a mini series of 10 episodes called Chapelwaite, which is the name of the haunted house that features in the show. Stars Adrian Brody and Emily Hampshire, and it will be out soon. It will be out, I think, next month.
That's awesome. More horror, please. More of you. Thank you so much. This is a lot of fun. Thank you so much for your time.
I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
Take care.
Bye.
That was Julian Richings talking about Anything for Jackson, which releases on VOD, DVD, Blu-ray, and digital on June 15th, 2021. It's a really interesting horror film, and I like the contrast where you have this nice couple doing some very, very terrible things. If you like this interview, please like and subscribe to this channel. It helps me out a lot to make sure all my new interviews go straight to you. And as always, please go to watcherpass.com for all your movie reviews, interviews, and recommendations. Thank you.